This is a snowman landscape. We're going to start with these supplies. You will need white paper and some colored paper, a pair of scissors. You will need oil pastels, a pencil, and a glue stick. Optional, you can use tracers, and you might want some paper towel. You can use a variety of substrates or bases, but what I'm going to show you today is using a large piece of blue paper. We're going to start talking about a light source and creating a form. So a light source casts light, and we're going to use the form of a circle. A circle, when it becomes three-dimensional, is called a sphere. This is a sphere. We are going to make it look like a sphere by showing where the light parts of it is, and then on the opposite of the light source, where the dark and the shadow is. Of course, down below, we will have a space for some casted shadow as well to make this look really three-dimensional. We're going to do this by starting with an oil pastel. So thinking about the light coming down onto our sphere, I'm not going to add any oil pastel on that top part. But on the lower half, on the opposite side of where the light is, I'm going to think about the shape of a sphere or a circle and start adding my oil pastel. Now I'm doing this about a third way across my circle. And now I'm going to leave some of that space right there so that I can make that my mid-tones. So the darkest part is called the dark tones. Here we have some mid-tones, and then we're going to leave that other part very light for light tones. Another word for this is value. We're creating value to create a form. Now that we have the sphere completed, we're going to add the shadow down below. If an object is sitting on a surface, the shadow underneath, the casted shadow, is going to touch the base of the object. So you can see I'm kind of echoing the shape. Instead of making it a perfect circle, I'm making it an oval, but I'm putting it on the dark side of the sphere. This is showing that the shadow is being casted down on the base or on the surface. Let's get started with our snowmen. So we need a white piece of paper or a lighter piece of paper, and then a colored piece of paper. These two pieces of paper should be the same size. I'm using a tracer, but you can just draw circles. You will see me doing that a little bit later. I'm using a light pencil, and in fact, it's so light, it's really hard to see right now. So you have to see my pencil moving around, making my small, then medium, and large circle at the very bottom. The pencil is going to be so light that only you will be able to see it, and that's perfect. All right, let's think about that light source coming onto our snowman. So we're going to imagine that it's coming from the right side, and each of these are spheres, and we know how to do that now. So I'm going to take the opposite side of my sphere and add the oil pastel. See? Now I'm drawing that same letter C, but this is on the medium-sized sphere. And I'm adding it back and forth, making sure the opposite side of the light source is getting nice and dark with my oil pastels. I have one more sphere to go. This time I'm going to use a paper towel to smear my oil pastel. So I'm just taking some paper towel, wrapping it around my finger, and that's going to allow me to manipulate and move the oil pastel on my sphere. As you can see, I'm rubbing this in a circle so that my sphere becomes visible. And I'm even taking some of that oil pastel that's just on my paper towel and putting it on the light side. It still looks lighter than the mid-tone and the dark tones. Now it's time to cut this out. You can see that I went outside of my lines quite a bit with that oil pastel, but that's not going to be a problem because we're going to cut it out. I'm taking my colored piece of paper and placing it behind. Now I could hold these together and make my cut because I want both of the shapes to be the same, but sometimes I like to just add a quick staple in the side, and that keeps my two pieces of paper together really nicely. Now I'm going to get started with my scissors. I would definitely recommend doing some parts in little chunks. Sometimes it's hard to go all the way around what we're cutting and make it look really good. So I'm cutting this section and letting it fall to the ground and then moving on to another section. That's a fun trick that really works well for me. Now we have our snowman and our colored piece of paper both cut out, and they look similar shapes, if not pretty exact. Now this is going to become the shadow for our snowman. So we're going to think about that light source again. Would it make sense to put the shadow on this side? Or would we want to move it down like this, straight down? Think about where the light source is. How about this? Do we want the shadow to go this way? This is the way we want it to go, because if the light source is coming down on the light side of the snowman, the casted shadow would be on the dark side of our snowman. Now, to make a few more snowmen. I'm doing this in the exact same way, except I'm using different colors of oil pastel, the same color for the entire snowman, but I'm switching it up for the different snowman that I'm creating. Each of them have a shadow piece behind them as well. The shadow piece can be different colors as well. I will be using a substrate of a blue piece of paper, but you can use any color if you want, or you could do a collaborative where your whole class uses one large piece of paper. I'm going to have mine horizontally in front of me for this demonstration. Now I'm going to draw a horizon line. This horizon line can be slightly wavy, but you want it to be low enough for a snowman to be able to sit on it, but high enough that it's on the upper third of the page. That's a lot to remember, but this is a very good example. See how I just have a slight curve and my snowman still fits? It comes in just a little bit into the horizon line. That's perfect. That's exactly what we want to do. I want some of my snowmen to be in the back and some of them to be in the front or the foreground. So I'm going to add a second line a little bit lower, same gentle curve to it. The curve might be in a different direction. It might not be exactly the same, but it's pretty curvy rather than angular or straight. We're going to add our first snowman on that back horizon line. Notice the horizon line is up towards the top and my snowman is coming down just a little bit into the horizon line. Now thinking about the light source, that's how I'm going to figure out how to lay my shadow for my snowman down. So I place my snowman down and right below it I place the shadow. Notice the shadow is going in the same diagonal. They're both looking kind of the same. Now I'm going to glue down the shadow first and place my snowman on top. You can see in this one right here, it goes over the next hill. Here's a solution. You can leave it like this, and when you put your additional snowman, you can just strategically place it over that little part that goes over the top of the hill. Or if you want to, you can take your scissors, draw a line with matching that hill, and then just taking your scissors and cutting that little portion off. That's another solution. Now I'll go ahead and place my snowman that I want in the foreground or towards the front on that first hill. So I'm placing 2 down, and now it's time for my shadow. You're going to see that the shadow goes off the page. All right, I'll glue down the shadow and my snowman, and then once everything's glued down nice and tight, I'm going to fix those shadows. So right here, I'll take my scissors and cut off majority of the shadow so that it fits in my composition, and I'll do the same thing to the other side as well. This part is a lot of fun because we're going to take our snowmen and start giving them some personality. Using our oil pastels, we're going to add arms to each of our snowmen, and you can see I'm imagining that I'm making them out of sticks, so I'm using brown and kind of thinking about sticks. Then I'm going to add a face and perhaps you'll add extra details. We'll continue with the details of our snowmen, adding arms and a face and extra details, maybe even scarves on the rest of our snowmen. When we are completed with our details, we're done with our work of art. What I love about this piece is that we see some amazing forms and shadow casted all correctly, thinking about a light source.